Montana's news leader. This is the MTN 530 News.
Tonight on your MTN 530 News, a mama grizzly and her cubs surprise a Red Lodge family by pacing and patrolling their backyard. But that begs the question, is this something that will become more common?
Due to the extreme call volume and an increase in mean and angry language, we are no longer answering calls in person.
And sent straight to voicemail, a local health department takes a strong step to stop angry calls from the public. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us midweek. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has put many health offices across the state and nation in the spotlight. On many occasions, those teams have received praise in their efforts to keep the public safe as the virus surges out of control. But they have also received their fair share of criticism. And now, at least for one local health department, that criticism has crossed the line. Q2's Mitch Laggy reports.
On Tuesday, the Park County, Montana Health Department started forwarding all of its calls to its voicemail box.
Due to the extreme call volume and an increase in mean and angry language, we are no longer answering calls in person. Calls which are disrespectful to our staff will be referred to the county commissioners.
A problem that's not new during the COVID-19 pandemic. Healthcare staff and school board officials harangued with abusive comments from the public. But the lack of communication in Park County is dire for 58-year-old Peter Soper.
And I have to worry that lives are being lost because of this kind of just breakdown in our system. It's just gross negligence. There's no reason for anybody to be engaged in this kind of crap.
Soper is vaccinated and tested positive for COVID at the Park County test site on Monday. He has his doctor's approval to receive monoclonal antibody treatment for COVID at a hospital in Bozeman, but he needs a copy of his test results.
I'm trying to get a hold of the health department because they're the ones that have my positive test result, and I can't. I can leave them a message, but so far I haven't gotten a call back.
So Soper decided to work with his Livingston doctor to get a new COVID test. He said he should get scheduled for an appointment in Bozeman sometime Wednesday evening. Park County Public Health did not return my call or email on Wednesday asking for comment. The harassing language is heard by hospital staff as well. Dr. Richard Lammers, Emergency Department Director at St. Vincent's in Billings, said negative comments have increased over the past months.
It's a fine line of being able to understand patients, but also setting those boundaries so that both nurses and providers and everybody's safe to practice in such a high-stress environment.
The Yellowstone County Health Department has been taking messages on its COVID information line since its inception in March 2020. A typical day sees about 20 calls to the information line, mostly from people seeking guidance on quarantine or close contacts. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Beginning November 6th, all international travelers coming into the United States through the airport will need to be vaccinated.
If you're planning a trip abroad in the next few months, you'll need to pack more than your bags if you want to return home. All travelers, including U.S. citizens, will now need proof of vaccination after traveling abroad.
A while ago, I didn't like it. I didn't like the vaccination at all, to be honest. But now, over here, it's starting to become more clearer. And I mean, I got my second shot of Moderna. I'm fully vaccinated, and yeah, I think it's a good option.
Bedden Frederick is returning home to South Africa after a summer in Montana and hopes to return next year. He says he'll be ready if the vaccine requirements are still in place.
I mean, if I am bringing somebody over, then probably I needs to get vaccinated, or if he isn't already vaccinated. So yeah.
The airlines will be responsible for checking vaccination records and doing contact tracing. Travelers under the age of 18 will not have to get a shot, but will need a negative COVID test 3 days prior to their flight. While Frederick is okay with the change, others are frustrated, arguing this new requirement is yet one more example of government overreach.
I can't imagine the idea that they think it's okay to completely control people's lives and to say, oh, well, you're not going to be allowed in this other part of the world.
Next month will be the first time since early 2020 that foreign visitors from over 30 countries will be able to travel to the U.S. In Billings, Brandon Warren, MTN News.
On the COVID-19 front, Yellowstone County's death toll is now at 402 after another reported death today. Overall, the state saw 16 deaths in the last 24 hours. On top of that, 463 patients are in hospitals across the state, 134 of those in the 2 Billings hospitals. 43 of those Billings patients are in intensive care and 34 are on ventilators. We'll now head over to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh. And Ed, don't blow away.
Well, you're right, Jeanelle. The wind was the big weather word of the day. We were worried about power lines being blown around, tree limbs, but mainly it was about leaves being blown off the trees and maybe taking the trash can out of the picture for a while as well. Marcus Boyer, thanks for sharing some of the video with us today. Some of the wind reports across the state, 74 miles an hour at Highwood, just outside of Great Falls along the High Line, and also southwest Montana seeing some of those stronger wind gusts. Here closer to Billings and the surrounding area, a lot of the wind gusts were topping 50 miles an hour, even 60 miles an hour. Will-Sal, one of the stronger winds in the region at 63 miles per hour. Some of the winds spreading across the eastern plains. More details coming up.
After reopening schools on Tuesday, the Hardin School District says it will continue to work in direct contact with local authorities as they investigate potential threat to students and staff. The Bighorn County Sheriff's Office maintains a strong presence throughout all schools in Hardin, and school officials urge the public to not engage in the spread of misinformation on social media. This after a weekend threat for school closures on Monday. There is still no word on what that threat entails or how it started. A 38-year-old Billings man is dead after a single vehicle crash west of Missoula. It happened Tuesday afternoon on I-90 near Superior. The victim was headed westbound when his Chevy Malibu went off the right side of the road and crashed into some trees. He was not wearing a seatbelt and was pronounced dead on scene. The man's name has not yet been released.
Just feet from Highway 212, a woman who owns a business here in Red Lodge was stunned one morning when a family of grizzly bears marched right onto her property. Here at the inn on the Beartooth, Deborah Scheffner admires bears.
Oh my God, right in the backyard.
So when this happened one early October morning,
it was exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Scheffner says she was making breakfast for her guests when all of a sudden she looked up.
I looked out the window of the kitchen and I saw the grizzly with her 2 pretty large cubs just walking through the yard.
Oh naturally, she pulled out her camera phone and started to record.
First, I started just taking still shots, and I'm like, oh no, you need to take a video. And I popped it on the video, and I think I got a really wonderful video.
In her 20 years of owning the bed and breakfast, never has she seen a sight quite like this. But grizzly bears,
they've had a real resurgence.
Wildlife biologists say in recent years, this sort of sighting has become more frequent.
The areas where we think that it's okay for bears to be, like in Yellowstone and in Glacier, those places are full.
But it shouldn't be surprising. The grizzly bear was historically a plains animal.
And they slowly got squeezed sort of back into the mountains and into the wilderness areas.
But protections mean populations have grown.
We're just
Scheffner says she's already bear aware.
They say a fed bear is a dead bear, right? So I don't want to be contributing to that problem, and I try to be real proactive.
I cannot believe it.
But the thrill of seeing this family of grizzlies up so close is something she won't soon forget.
People are like, oh, she's the one that had the grizzly in her yard. And they keep, that's, you know, they don't even say, this is Debbie, she had the grizzly in her yard. She's just like, this is the lady that had the grizzly. So I guess that's who I am now.
In Red Lodge, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 530 News on Q2, Montana tough. One Columbus woman knocked down not once, but twice, is fighting to survive in her battle against cancer, while also helping others. We'll share her story next.
The MTN 530 News continues right after this.